Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
It's good to know you can join us on today's edition of Early Exchange. The focus for today is sustainable businesses, and one of the sustainable businesses globally is mining. We're going to be looking at how to make it more profitable and, of course, more sustainable. A gentleman that you saw with me yesterday is here again because he would not leave me alone on the show, and because he's brought a lot of information to share with you today. His name is Femi Ayodele. Good morning, Femi.
What a good way to introduce me. I like that, you know, a gentleman.
It makes you feel like a very caring person. Okay.
I'll add that to my CV, you know.
Please do.
All right, glad to know you're there with us. You know, it's a beautiful morning, another opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, and the economy. We're still going to look at the kind of collaborations that should exist among African nations when it comes to science and technology. Don't forget, this is your program. This implies you can be part of the conversation by going on our YouTube platform, on our social media platform, using the hashtag Early Exchange. Now, let's set the ball rolling by taking news update. Juby is standing by in the newsroom to take us around the world.
Hello and welcome to News Update on Souq News. I am Juvi Ofiene. In a bid to support Nigeria's industrialization efforts, the Bank of Industry (BOI) and the International Finance Corporation (IFC) have partnered to enhance finance accessibility and export credit. While speaking at the recent BOI-IFC conference on empowering futures in Lagos, the bank's managing director, Dr. Olusegun Olushi, stressed the importance of developing innovative financial solutions and initiatives. He highlighted the crucial role of development banks like BOI and institutions like IFC in adapting to the country's evolving macroeconomic landscape by embracing unconventional financial strategies. Similarly, the regional vice president of the International Finance Corporation, Sergio Pimenta, emphasized IFC's strategic objectives, including diversified growth, inclusion, sustainability, and job creation, along with initiatives to enhance energy access and economic diversification. FMDQ Securities Exchange Limited, a security exchange and self-regulatory organization licensed by the country's Security and Exchange Commission, says turnover in Nigeria's foreign exchange market surged to $844 million on February 3rd, marking the highest dollar trade volume since June 2nd, 2022, representing a threefold increase from the $266 million traded on February 1st. These can be attributed to recent reforms implemented by the country's apex bank that introduced measures enabling the naira to trade more freely against the dollar, fostering better transparency in the official market, and mandating banks to offload excess dollars. According to them, this improvement is impacting the embattled naira, which experienced significant volatility last week, with the naira strengthening to 1,490 naira per dollar on Monday from 1,435 naira per dollar on Friday. However, the parallel market rate has yet to strengthen at the same pace as the official rate, leading to concerns about the potential resurgence of a substantial gap between both rates. Nigeria's Apex Bank, Central Bank of Nigeria, says Nigerians' expenditure on foreign education, healthcare, and personal travels amounted to over $98 billion over a span of 10 years. CBN's Governor Olayemi Cardoso revealed this information while addressing the House of Representatives in response to inquiries regarding the recent rapid depreciation of the naira against the backdrop of central bank's effort to stabilize the exchange rate amid a shortage of dollars. He highlighted increased demand pressures in the foreign exchange market as a key factor contributing to the continuous decline in the volume of the naira. These declines spark concerns among members of the organized private sector and the Nigerian populace who fear it will result in increased hardship and job losses. Cardoso, however, attributed this situation to speculative forex demand and inadequate forex supply due to low remittances. As part of effort to increase revenue drive and investment in social projects, Zambia's Mines Minister Paul Kabuswe says the country aims to secure larger stakes in the new mining project. Zambia, Africa's second largest copper producer, currently holds interests of 10 to 20% in mines owned by companies like Barrick Gold, Vedanta Resources, and First Quantum Minerals. Kabuswe emphasizes equitable partnership to avoid exploitative dynamics and ensure positive social impact. Despite Zambia's declining copper production, the minister noted a firm negotiation stance while maintaining investor confidence. Additionally, Lusaka plans to establish a trading house to purchase minerals from its project for independent trading, pending cabinet approval. The government closely monitors development at First Quantum's Panama mine, hoping for resolutions to avoid negative repercussions. And lastly, Australia experienced a surge in red meat export last year, driven by increasing livestock prices, which enhanced the competitiveness of its product, especially amidst declining beef production in the United States. Trade data reveal a record high in sheep meat exports and the highest beef exports since 2019. Experts anticipate larger exports in 2024 due to low U.S. beef output and robust Chinese demand. Australian cattle and sheep prices hit multi-year lows in 2021, prompting farmers to sell off livestock amid dry weather conditions. In contrast, the U.S. faced drought-induced reductions in its cattle herd, leading to sharp prices in beef prices. Despite a slight recovery in livestock prices due to recent rainfall, Australian red meat remains competitive in the global market. The increase in exports was primarily driven by China for sheep meat and included increased shipments to China, South Korea, and the United States for beef. And that's all there is for now. Do stay with us for more updates. Shortly, we'll return you to the Early Exchange studio where Femi Ayodele and Blessing Aiche awaits you.
All right, thank you, Juby, for the news update. You indeed took us around the world with the news update. Now we'll go on a short break. We'll right back to start our conversation for today. Stay with us.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana. My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching
Souq News TV,
the best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the light different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marcy Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching
Souq News TV,
the best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the light different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, glad to know you're still there with us. Now we want to look at the kind of collaborations that should exist among African nations when it comes to science and technology, or innovation when it comes to the ICT sector. You know, there have been concerns about the kind of collaboration that should exist in Africa. You have other nations in other climes launching several technological innovations. But what's the place of Africa in this? That's what we'll be looking at, and then what should be the wake-up call for most African countries when it comes to taking advantage of the opportunities provided by science and technology. I guess we'll be here shortly to provide his own perspective to it. But Blessing is here. Talking about the issue of science and technology in Africa, you know, it has been of concern because it's looking like Africa is taking the back seat when it comes to the issue of science and technology. Whether we have the expertise, it's another question. But when you look at some of the innovations taking up, you know, coming up globally in terms of that sector, it's looking like Africa needs to do more. Talking about the mission to space, for instance, a lot of countries, you had Russia, you've had UK, and you know they've taken some projects to launch some of these innovative. But African countries, we're yet to see more of that, and that's what we're going to look at today. Atlanta, I guess, is ready for us. Joining us via Zoom, we have Kende Ogunbiyi, who is the CEO, KCB Solutions, an IT and digital solution. Glad to have you join us, Kende, on LXing this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Glad to have you join us. It's been a while.
Yeah, okay, such a great honor to be here. Good morning, audience. Yeah, good morning, world. Good morning, presenter and host. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. It's a very interesting topic talking about science and technology and how Africans can collaborate. It's so interesting because I remember there was a time I was actually in one of the neighboring countries for like an exchange program. And I remember how that really played out. Though sometimes language can be a barrier between an Anglophone country and a Francophone country. But once you have someone who can interpret, and I think that barrier can be crossed. So I believe that there is really no barrier at all. Technology can really help to make that happen. One of the ways I believe we can actually collaborate is to establish regional networks. Yeah, thank God for the world has become a global village now. So we can actually create regional networks or consortium where scientists, innovators, researchers can actually collaborate and share common projects and share goals and do some exchange. Even if we travel to meet each other every time, we can create like an online forum where we can exchange some of our ideas of changing Africa or helping Africa to grow and develop in the area of science and technology, because it is very, very key that we do this. Then we can also do a joint research initiative by actually encouraging this. Africans can work on challenges such as healthcare, agriculture, energy, environment, and sustainability. And this can actually help by us coming together to put resources, expertise, infrastructure to make this happen. This is some of the things I've actually done personally, even in my organization, collaborating with some friends. And it should interest you to know that some of these friends I'm talking about that I met in Benin Republic, from Ghana, Togo, they are friends that I even met online. That you get, like meeting them online, then collaborating has really helped. So when we do a joint research initiative together, like, okay, finding out challenges of Africa in the area of science, the area of technology, why is it that we are behind? How can we bridge some of these? How can we get support from one another and help each other to make this happen? Because Africa is talented, Africa is gifted with amazing people. But then there's a lot of things that limit us, but we must not allow those things to actually limit us. We must look at how we can bridge the gap. If it's power that is the challenge, how can we make sure that, okay, we provide, we create the power that we need? Because when it comes to science, comes to technology, power plays a crucial role in this. Then we can also do some technology transfer programs. And it's one of the things I did some years ago in Benin Republic, meeting students, thousands of students from one of their universities. So like this transfer programs, it's actually powerful because it can actually help to promote knowledge, expertise among Africans. Then this could involve training workshops, mentorship programs, partnership between universities, research institutions, and industries across borders. I understand that a lot of African universities prefer to collaborate with those who are in maybe the overseas, the US, UK, and the rest. But it's high time Africans start collaborating with each other by doing some technology transfer programs. We can actually start some of those programs amongst ourselves, put it together, look for a country to host it, where we can share ideas, we can share knowledge, and we can look at how we can partner and how we can create solutions to our problems, the problems, and create solutions for it. Thank God for a lot of innovative things that are coming. Thank God for AI. Thank God for a lot of brilliant solutions or advancement in technology. Thank God for machine learning. Thank God for a lot of all these things. They're actually for our own good, and we cannot allow our background or our environment to limit us. We must actually come together, put this exchange program. The another thing is we can actually create innovative hubs. Yeah, like if we do an event in Benin Republic or maybe in Nigeria, for example, we can look at possibility of creating a hub. We don't have to build a physical structure to start with. Sometimes it can be by going to already established institution, talking with, sharing ideas. Okay, this is what we want to do. Can we use your universities to start? And because a lot of the universities already have some of those stuff, one can collaborate and start some of the hubs, because when we have these hubs, entrepreneurs, startups, researchers, and people from different parts of Africa can come together and develop innovative solutions to common challenges, because whether we like it or not, we have common challenges as Africans. I mentioned power earlier, though some African countries are already defeating the power challenges. But then, talking about availability to funds, talking about internet solution, especially, like in most African countries, there's always an issue of internet. And there's no way you want to collaborate or you want to compete with the outside world that you can put internet outside. The internet is actually very key, because without the internet now, for example, I can't be on this show to communicate and share my idea. So internet is actually key, and we can actually collaborate and meet some of the technology companies or the internet service providers, the ISPs, and look at how they can also help, how they can support, and how they can also take technology or the internet to certain areas in different cities and communities. Because when we are talking about innovation, what comes to mind most of the time is the place that comes to mind rather are the urban centers. But we must also consider some of the rural areas or the rural communities that needs to move to a close by urban center to do what they need to do. And it's not always encouraging when they get there, and power, internet, and some of these things are issues. Then even access to gadgets. But thank God that those things are improving with the advent of smartphones and all of that. And one way is also to look at how we can collaborate with organizations.
All right.
Payment.
All right, I like the fact that without being prompted, you're ready. In fact, you're providing answers to like 4 or 5 questions, all wrapped in one. It shows you're ready for this interview or for this conversation. But I'd like us to situate the conversation properly so that we will not be lost in the course of our conversation. Now, let's start with your take on the position of Africa when it comes to technology or tech innovations. There are some people who argue or who believe that Africa is taking the back seat when it comes to providing tech solutions. That Africa is looking like a dumping ground rather than being the hub for technology. What's your take on that?
Is actually behind because of some of the things I mentioned. It's not always easy to compete with the outside world. For example, I've actually had a situation personally that I'm taking an online course and I'm supposed to take it with some people in other parts of the world. Now, some, like for example, the one I had issues with one time was it was a 6 weeks online course, 6 weeks, and it means that I have to run with other students. But because of maybe challenges of power, looking for fuel, some of those challenges, and maybe it's now a season where there is no sunlight to even generate solar energy, and that's even for those who have solar. It becomes a big challenge. So we are always far behind because of some of these things. Imagine that, okay, an African puts in for a competition or maybe a kind of a startup challenge, and because you are constrained by a lot of things, you can't meet up. Others will be far ahead of you. If I at some point during the training I was talking about, I got a mail that says, oh, you are far behind other students. You need to buckle up and blah blah blah. And it was really embarrassing. And I knew the reason why that was the same. But people who are in the other part of the world, they don't have any issue in the sense that when you're at home, there is good internet. When you're in the train, there's good internet. When you are in the turbine, anywhere you are, there's just internet to just keep up either on your phone. Then when you get to, you can continue on the system. So it's actually true. So all this and more affect Africans from competing and also showcasing what we've got. And this is why when Africans are able to actually some of these things or even go out there to compete, like, there's a virtual competition. When we go there, really, and we have some of those resources, we outshine a lot of people out there. And that is just because we have the knowledge, but we are just limited by infrastructural facility.
Most of the science, technology, and innovation efforts in Africa have been initiated by externals, and so sometimes they do not meet the need of the locals. How can that be corrected, even with collaboration?
Yeah, I believe that knowledge is the way, because I tell you, a lot of things are coming up. Now we have machine, we have artificial intelligence, we have data science. So for us to be able to meet up, we have to go for knowledge. And one of the fastest ways to go for knowledge, even if you can't afford to pay for online courses, is going on YouTube and learning the ones you can learn. Then look for ways to collaborate with friends over there, get materials, videos, ebooks, and all that, because that's just the only way. We need to actually increase our knowledge. I'm always on LinkedIn, and I see a lot of job offers, this and that, but there are always criteria that, okay, you must have this certification, you must have that. But sometimes when you look at some of those certifications, sometimes paying for them is not even the challenge at all, but being able to pay. I follow one of your program, and I saw where you were talking about making it for Africans or Nigerians, for example, during that to Nigeria. It's always very hard. Now, I want to pay for an online course. I can't pay with my card. I can't pay with my Naira to buy a dollar course. And some of those courses, they won't allow you to buy it in Naira. But with even with that, one of the ways we can collaborate, just like you asked, is that we can actually, for those who have friends, or we all need to have friends in different parts of the world, we can collaborate with them and say, okay, friend, I want to pay for this online course. Can I pay in Naira? You help me pay for it in dollars. That way you bridge that gap, then you get the knowledge you need, then you can actually be able to compete. Because once you have the knowledge and you have the certification that say, okay, you are qualified for it, then you can easily maximize any opportunity out there and compete with the outside world.
All right, you will agree with me that the bedrock to any tech advancement has to be research. What's the disposition to scientific research in Africa? What's your assessments in this area? And what are the things that should be done to ensure that the issue of scientific research are being developed in Africa?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I believe that, okay, what we need to do in Africa is to work on joint research, because one of the things that affects when it comes to researching is having one language. It happens in almost every field. Like some people will come and say, okay, this is it. Another set of people will say, no, this is not it. This is our own. So a joint research is what we do. That means we come together and look at, okay, what are the common challenges we have? Then what are the solutions? Then we agree. So that is why we need to have, I remember I mentioned earlier that we need to have a joint research initiative. Now, this joint research initiative is something that when we do it across Africa, it will help us to tackle challenges of healthcare, agriculture, energy, environment. And, we are using science and technology as a tool for all of this, because you still need science and technology in healthcare, in agriculture, in energy, environmental sustainability. So we need to actually come together and say, okay, these are the challenges, these are the solutions. What do we need to do? So having one language is actually what we need to work towards. And the best way is to have the joint research initiatives, so that Nigerians are not saying this is the way, Ghanaians are saying this is another one, Beninese are saying this, and Togolese are saying another thing. So I understand there is a place of language barriers, but when we talk about Africa, we all know that, okay, we have regions. We have this the West Africa, the Northern Africa, the South, no, different regions like that. But we can start by doing some research amongst the West African countries, or maybe starting with Anglophone, then Francophone, or maybe just do something together, then look at how we can bridge the language barriers first, so that it doesn't limit the research that we are talking about, because we have common challenges, and I believe that we can work towards a common solution to tackle those challenges.
What about the challenge of funding for these research and projects? How do you think the funding is going to come, and who's to spearhead it, being that development and even the financial strengths of every African country differs from the other, or each African country differs from the other?
Yeah, funding is a big challenge, and there are a lot of international organizations that does funding. I know there is a fund for those who are into agriculture internationally, and then other technology solutions. So talking about funding, one of the ways we can tackle it is to look for some of the international aids available, or just look at how we can influence our maybe policy makers or government officials, or better still, people representing us in different arms of government, maybe from a local level, look at how we can encourage them to create funds for technology and science, because it's actually affect other areas of life. So because we need to look at getting the local fund first sometimes before you can really lay hands on the international funds, because local funds are most times always available, but it's just about being able to do some advocacy and say, okay, this is what we feel should be, or maybe making sure that, okay, we get knowledge, because it's not just about information. Basically, if you check budget of most countries or most states or local government, some of these things are there, but it's just that because people don't know, they don't go there to maybe ask for it or look for how to access it, because there is the how to accessing it. It may be by actually coming together as a team, maybe like I'm talking about like a country, for example, or maybe like local government coming together and say, okay, we are the innovators in this, we are the scientists, we are the digital solution providers, or we are the agricultural enhancement team in this area. Then when we now do that, we can now advance to maybe the state level and the federal level, then look for the international funds. And most of the international funds, they are always there, but they always need some credibility from the country level. That, okay, you're credible, you're registered, and you do the needful in your country. Then they can now say, okay, apply online, then you get it based on what you're doing already. But sometimes, some of the international, in fact, not some, all of them, they want you to have started something. So starting something, we have to do with the little funds you have, then maybe family and friends that believe in the solution, then the local government, the state government, then we can actually enjoy some of those international funds. But basically, they are always there. The funds are always there. It's just about getting the right knowledge and looking for how to access them. That is the challenge.
All right, now let's look at some of the initiatives that should be put in place to encourage local researches when it comes to scientific research, especially in higher institutions, or research institutes. We used to have a situation in the past where you have several tech hubs, tech clubs, jet clubs to encourage, students, to encourage local people to come up with research, and those things will be funded. What kind of initiative or program should be put in place locally, as far as African countries are concerned, to encourage local research? After all, they often say that charity begins at home.
Yeah, there are a lot of initiatives that can actually be put in place. And just like I said earlier, apart from the joint initiative where we are researching together, there is actually what I also call the joint funding initiative. And this is actually where organizations, stakeholders support research and innovation and innovative projects. And this could actually be by setting up funding mechanism, especially for cross-border collaboration. So just like you said, charity begins at home. Sometimes some of the small clubs, even as far back as secondary schools, they are great initiatives that should be maintained, because some of them are not really active as it used to be when we were in secondary school. And one needs to take it back. Like, I think some of the innovative solution providers, innovators, solutionists, and all of that should actually start from some of these schools and create some of these initiatives. Because see, when we start from this grassroots, it's actually easier for us because we can actually tap into a lot of solutions or development, because some young lads create amazing things these days. So, but if they are not encouraged through some of these clubs where they can showcase, where they can go for. So apart from those ones, another initiative that I feel that should come up, initiative that helps to promote some of these things, that encourages. And this is where NGOs come in. I know there are some NGOs that do some of these things that brings talent together. And this is where we have talent hunts and all of these things, bringing them together to look at what they are able to do. And I'm so excited that when I see that schools now do things like robotics and some of these solutions that are real, and they integrate them into their study, because that is where it starts from. And schools now employ teachers who handle some of these things for students, because it's just not it's beyond learning English, mathematics, and all of these courses alone. And even when they learn them, they need to put real practice, real purpose, real use. And that's just one of the ways. So there are a lot of innovative ideas that we can come up with, but it has to start from the grassroots, then the state level, national level, then the international level, sincerely. So that when we bring some of these innovative solutions together, they can help us to say, okay, this is the next course of action. I've seen teenagers developing cars using solar. But if there are no innovative initiatives, rather, to actually encourage them, either from individuals, from even private sector. They have a great role to play, and even government, because we can't leave everything to government, because we are the government, we are in democracy, basically. So we have to actually look at how we can come together and encourage, because it's more about encouragement by supporting the ways we can, and making sure that, okay, some of these innovative ideas are actually exposed to the world. Thank God for the social media space. When someone does something innovative, it's good to just try to share it and encourage other people out there that, okay, it pays to think ahead and come up with solutions that can help mankind.
All right, let's talk specifics now. Do an assessment. What are the areas of strength for Africa presently as far as science, technology, and innovation is concerned? And what are those areas you think there are skills and knowledge gap to be addressed?
Okay, so Africans, I think our strength is in our challenges, sincerely. Like when you just, I remember I watched a documentary one time some days ago of how a young boy somewhere in Ekiti or something used stone to generate electricity. It's actually a rural community where there's no light, there's no power. Of course, there's no power, there's nothing. So our strength is in our challenges, like challenge of power, challenge of internet, challenge of, because where there are no challenges, there won't be innovation. All the innovative solutions that we see in our world today are a result of challenges. Okay, someone discovers that, okay, everywhere is always dark, we can't do this, we can't do that. There was electricity, and someone discovers that, okay, we need to move from one place to the other, and we can't just keep using camel. And before you know it, we had cars. Well, of course, it had advancement. So our strength is actually in our weakness, in what we face, in challenges of poor funding, poor infrastructure. They actually things that actually can propel us to come up with ideas, to come up with solutions that can help our existence. And that is what I believe. Then for us to actually bridge the gap you talked about, we must actually try to start speaking out, start collaborating, and look for how we can, media plays a great role in all of this, because when some things come to spotlight, they are actually there's a way they get attention of the right set of people. Imagine in a country like Nigeria, we over 200 million. Then the last time I was in the Republic and they were telling me their population, I was just smiling. And they because they are not even up to Lagos, for example. They have access, they have easy access to most of their people, more than we do, maybe because we are more than them. So in different countries, there are different advantages that can be taken, that one can climb on and make things happen, basically. So I believe that as Africans, challenges we have are the strengths that we also have, but we need to actually make the most of them and look at how we can advance from there.
All right, now let's look at the role of artificial intelligence. AI is becoming the rave of the moment. But let's see what will be the paradigm shift that AI will bring to tech innovations as it unfolds. I'd like you to also do like what I call a SWOT analysis of what AI will bring to tech innovations, especially in Africa, the opportunities, the threats, and then we look at some of the strengths and the weaknesses when it comes to the challenges being posed by artificial intelligence.
Yeah, AI is actually not the future, it's the now. Like I'm speaking to you now, there is a course I'm doing on AI, elements of AI. It's actually a free course by Google, actually. And AI has come to stay, because it's not really to, just like people used to fear that it has come to replace humans. No, I think it has come to actually make things faster, depending on how you use it. Some people depend on it 100%. I'm not a fan of that. I believe that, okay, you must actually have something you're saying already before AI can now help you. Because if you are just expecting it to just tell you everything and you're not telling it, before AI, for example, people write books, but now some people don't just want to do anything, just put all the stuff and expect AI to do everything for you. It's supposed to help you or enhance or advance what you're doing, not to totally replace it, to help your research work so that you can now do some of the edits. AI is actually a part of computer science, and it is actually very powerful, that artificial intelligence. And it's just a kind of intelligence that is expected to actually do something faster than what mind can fathom, and is also a result of our brain, basically, because it was developed by human beings. So it's not to replace it, is to actually make it better. AI has come to stay. There are so many things it can do, and of course it's also based on machine learning. What AI does is that it learns, then it will now replicate everything that it has learned. That means you can teach AI to do, or teach AI about you. Okay, AI, this and this and this and this and this. Just give it a clue. It's like telling AI the A, B, C to the Z, and then maybe telling AI how to form 2-letter words, 3-letter words, 4-letter words. Then from there, it can actually form a sentence for you. So it's about teaching it, okay, taking it through process. Then AI can do a lot of things, can generate images, can help you enhance your writing, can do literally anything. If an AI now edit videos for you and do a lot of interesting stuff, so it has come to stay. It's actually there to help us enhance what we are already doing or what already exists, to help us fast track things. Because the beauty of AI is that as humans, we only have 24 hours to get anything done, but AI.
All right, we've encountered a glitch there with our guest, as has been talking about ensuring cooperation between Africans as it concerns science, technology, and innovation. Now, my worry is this. What will be the metrics to assess the success level when it comes to collaboration? So when African countries come together to boost science and technology development, what do you think should be the metric by which you assess, oh, we're getting there, we're making some progress?
I think the starting point is for African nations to first of all recognize the need for the collaboration, and I think that's where the challenge is. We seem to have too many countries, owning up to their space and saying, oh, this is my tech hub and I need to see everything to protect it.
It seems more like a competition.
Exactly, rather than complementing each other. So until we get to that level where as Africans we feel we are taking the back seats, and so there's a need for us to share what I call scientific intelligence. If for instance you have certain kind of research is being done in Nigeria, it's expected that you also collaborate with from other climes or other nations to even see how you can localize that kind of research or how applicable it will be to other countries. So the greatest challenge is the barrier of that collaboration, which part of what you talked about, the issue of language, because as Africans, you have some who speak English because of we're being colonized by the British, and you have some countries being colonized by the French, so they speak French. So the issue of language is still something to look at in the issue of language. Not just the issue of language as well. Religion is also a sensitive factor. When it comes to Africa, we're very sensitive to the issue of religion. But these are things that, when we are in almost at the age where we can't do without collaboration. So African leaders need to sit together. Yesterday we talked about the need for a visa-free policy. If this is becoming a challenge, then you can know that when it comes to the issue of technology, it's a bigger issue. So the starting point is for African nations to understand the need for this collaboration at this time. Look at what Russia is doing in the area of technology, most of the military weapons, most of the ammunitions that we depend on, it comes from that hub, because they've taken their time to do research in that area, and they're becoming very relevant to all nations of the world, even to the West or to Africans, and that's why they are providing more support. So when it comes to science and technology, these nations, they are taking the front seat. Look at the mission to space as well. What's the position of Africa? We have the brains, we have the professors, we have the research institute, you have universities, but what's the challenge? The ability to utilize, this knowledge, not just the paper understanding of what should be done when it comes to
the practical knowledge,
the practical aspect of it, but some of the issues cropping up in Africa, where the things he talked about, the issue of funding for research, the issue of tech deficits, and then even the
infrastructure deficits
infrastructural deficit. So the starting point is to see the need for these nations to collaborate, because as we speak, Africa is taking the backseat, and it's going to be a deliberate effort on the part of African leaders for us to come out of that situation. You must understand that technology is now, and it's going to be the future. Yes. And now that you have artificial intelligence, it makes it more demanding. It has created like what we call a paradigm shift, even in tech innovations, whereby you don't depend on human intelligence anymore. You also have to depend on the intelligence of the machine at your disposal. And that's why you see some of our doctors, they will prefer to work abroad. Some of our scientists will prefer to work abroad because the equipment are available, the right environment are environment. So these are the starting points for Africans or African nations. And by the time we start doing this, you now discover that then it will have a larger effect, whereby leaders will now see the need for Africans to start collaborating in terms of research, sharing intelligence, and then we start creating what we'll call tech hubs around the world. In Nigeria, we're catching up. You have individuals who have created tech hubs. You have organizations,
even governments, state governments that have created tech hubs,
who have done that. But compared to what they should do, that's where the challenge is, because there's also a stipulation that, okay, there's a certain percentage of the GDP should be committed to scientific research. How far have we gone in that area? It's another question for another day.
And I think as part of being deliberate, because random development is no development. When Africa wants to collaborate and say, okay, let's work on building science, technology, and innovation in Africa, I think it should be deliberate enough to just set some goals in this area. For instance, if it's in the area of providing tech to aid medicine, if it's the area to aid tech in education and some other aspects. So it's easy to measure success, and it's easy to focus on one thing per time. So that way, Africa knows that, oh, perhaps for the next 1 year, for the next 2 to 3, 4 years, this is the goal. Without that goal setting, it may just be random efforts here and there. At the end of the day, that leaves Africa nowhere, really. But when it is intentional, targeted towards certain areas, and then education, the educational system is tailored towards that, the hubs are built around it, we can have actual growth in science, technology, and innovation. I do hope that the barriers that you've mentioned, language, religion, we're able to break through it in Africa, because it's about time that that pettiness, in quotes, be dropped, where everyone or each country wants to outdo the other. I think Africa will stand better and stand a chance of growing more together than doing individual thing. Oh, Ghana is doing their own, Nigeria is doing their own, Kenya, South Africa, and the others are doing their own. Maybe in the meantime, it may not be possible to have all African countries come to the table, but it might be possible to do it regionally. So West Africa has their own targets. You have East Africa doing theirs, North Africa doing theirs, and that's where each region is developing, and then we can now have a whole as a continent.
Interesting. Now let's go on a short break. We'll be right back to reconnect with our guest and for him to wrap up his thought on the issue of science and technology in Africa. Stay with us.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port, that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of lock-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Markets, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, indeed, our obligation is to shape policy and advance development with our conversation. And that's why we're looking at the kind of collaborations that should take place among African nations when it comes to science and technology. We still have our guest with us. Kende Ogunbi is still here with us. He's also shaping policy and advancing development with his own perspective to this conversation. Kende, glad to know you're still there with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. It's a pleasure. Now, let's look at what we should do as a nation. Let's come back home now. Let's localize the conversation, looking at Nigeria. Okay. The minister has set several agendas as regards what should be done related to science and technology in Nigeria. As an expert in this field, what are some of the things that should be his priorities in the years 2024?
I think the government needs to invest in things that has to do with science and technology. They need to actually make sure that there is a budget that is set aside for that, because that is the only way we can actually have something interesting for science and technology. Our budget must actually improve. We can't just say, okay, we believe in science and technology and we don't have a good budget for it. And because it all starts from making sure that, okay, there is a good budget for the education, because there is the educational part of science and technology. So once there is a budget for education, then we can say, okay, we need to also have a budget for the Ministry of Science and Technology. Then, of course, the Ministry of Science and Technology, through the president, it must also ensure that, of course, um, they go out, not just to the urban centers alone, go everywhere. It's like a football coach scouting for a player. They need to scout for people who are doing something amazing and try to support them in the way that can also help, because who knows, someone somewhere in one corner may be developing something that would change the narrative of the country or help our living as individuals. So this is why we need to really embrace all of this and see how we can advance the country. The government, through the president, they have a great role to play. It starts from the budgeting, making sure that, okay, there are good allocation for this. Then following up on the ministry, making sure that, okay, the right person is actually in the Ministry of Science and Technology, basically, because interest is there. If someone who doesn't really have a good knowledge of science and technology, or that is not his core, is the minister, it really affect. Apart from that, all the other people under him must be people who are actually innovative, who are knowledgeable, and they know what to do part time, especially as it comes to the international world, what is expected. Because you can't be talking about a, a 17th century method when we are talking about fighting 21st century war. You have to actually change the method and look at what are the new ways. People are tackling things in different ways now, using artificial intelligence, machine learning, using the PHP and so many more advanced technology than to now be talking about one whole way of doing things. So we must actually innovate too. It starts from us, and our thinking is actually very key in all of this. Thank you so much.
We go quickly. In your recommendation, what are the goals that you think Africa needs to set and follow through in science, technology, and innovation?
Yeah, there are a lot of goals that Africa needs to set and follow through. I think the number one goal is that we want to become a technology hub of the world. We don't just want to be pushed aside or pushed over when it comes to technology. So once we have that goal, that the goal is to be number one or nothing, for example, then even see, if you target the moon, even if you don't hit the moon, you land among the stars. So the goal should be to be the best, or nothing when it comes to science and technology. And it's possible, sincerely. We only need to up our game. Yeah, it's always said that, okay, people out there are ahead of us, they come with this, they come with that. But I believe that we can actually set the pace, because when you go out there, Nigerians or Africans are the ones even setting the pace in different sectors, health sector, technology, and different part of the world. That means it is possible to make it happen. So the goal is to be the best, and the goal is to make life better. Those two things are actually very key. To be the best, to make life better, because technology is here to make our life better, to make our work better, to make every of our activities even much better and smarter. And that's just the idea. So the goal should be to be better. And I'm so glad that some African countries are already doing this with the way they focus on technology. Rwanda is an example. I see a lot of things that the government is doing. And even personally, I've been working on connecting with people over there too, and look how we can also collaborate and do some innovative things here. Because the one thing about science and technology is that no matter how innovative the people are, one government policy can just disrupt all the process. So the goal should align with what the people are trying to do also. Because when you're trying to, you can't catch a vision for the people without carrying them along. So there must be a vision that says, okay, this is what we want to achieve. Then we can now pen down the goals. Then you can have the goals in short form goals and the long term goals. So because it's very key. So the short term goals are the goals that we must achieve now. now, like maybe achieve in the next 2 days, 1 week, 1 month. Then the long-term goals can be okay, 1 year, 2 years. Before you know it, we'll definitely get there. So that is the way to just go.
All right, we just have to leave the conversation here, hoping that Africa will take its place when it comes to the issue of science, technology, and innovation globally. Kendi Ogunbi, the CEO, KCB Solutions, thank you so much for your time and your thought on this subject.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. So such a great privilege to be here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to everyone that is watching. Thank you to the amazing presenters. Thank you so much. God bless you.
All right, thank you for the compliment. We need to go on a short break now. We'll be right back to discuss the issues related to the mining sector in Nigeria. Stay with us.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Experts Troll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching
Souq News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa, rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamans.
Still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion.
We have a 24-hour rescue team always on standby. So the first thing that is done is for the...
As Nigerians, we must realize that government does not thrive based on what one man is doing at the seat of power.
If I had my way, I would say let's go back and bring back Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're at the right place at the right time. We're still talking about issues related to Africa and Nigeria, and now we want to take a shift to the mining sector. According to reports, Nigeria loses about $9 billion to illegal mining. How has it gotten to this situation that the issue of illegal mining has been bleeding the nation, has gone out of control? That's what our guest analyst will talk about. Blessing, you want to take that?
All right, joining us to talk about the issues with the mining sector in Nigeria, we have Kefas Mogri, who is the Deputy Director and Head, Geosciences and Data Management Department, Solid Minerals Development Fund, SMDF. And it's a delight to host Kefas this morning. I think this should be the first time he's joining Early Exchange in the year 2024. So Happy New Year to you, Kefas. Good morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and then thank you for having me.
All right. The mining sector in Nigeria, which is under the Ministry of Solid Minerals, has had lots of issues, and over time it's been a front burner topic. But losing as huge as $9 billion yearly, it's a lot of money for a country to be losing due to the activities of illegal miners. Like Femi asked, how did we get to that part? How did we get to that level? As artisanal mining being the contributory factor, or there's more to it? Tell us about it.
Good morning again. It's true that Nigeria is bleeding from the activities of artisanal mining through the exportation of our mineral resources out of the country without being accountable. As much as we acknowledge that there is a big challenge there, we also have an issue of data. If we say we are losing $9 billion, this has always been a point of contention among professionals within the sector. Nobody's having a statistical data that verifies that claim. But for sure, we are losing a lot. And now, if you look at it, if we're losing that kind of money out of the country, we have to look at it. What do we need to do? One, we need to be sure about our data. Two, we have to look at how is the data, this amount of money getting out of the country. Three, what particular commodity is actually the principal culprit in this sector? And I can tell you clearly, one of the major things that we are having in Nigeria is actually the metal sector. And among the metals, we're talking specifically about the precious metals. Gold, for example, is having a very high price value per ounce. Now, if you look at it, if you're going to take gold out of Nigeria, in no time, you discover that actually many people are ready to buy gold at any time T. If you're having gold, it's like having dollars. So people tend to buy gold, one, to save. Once it's in their own houses, you don't know how to go and smuggle it out. Two, there are a lot of cartels that people are actually buying all over the world. And if they discover that there is an easy way for them to get it out of Nigeria, they will certainly do it. Three, the Middle East is one of the major off-takers of gold around the world, especially from Africa. So all those things actually cumulatively lead to the siphoning of our raw materials, our precious metal out of Nigeria without being accountable. But as I said, are we really sure about that fact, that data, that we are losing $9 billion? That is a big question that I don't think there's anybody that can come out and give you statistical data, empirical evidence that we are losing that kind of money.
Even if the figure is debatable, it doesn't erase the fact that Nigeria is losing billions of naira to the activities of illegal mining. Now, let's look at the activities of this set of people. Over the years, several administrations have come on board to make promises on tackling the issue of illegal mining. Why do you think it has become like an Herculean task, dealing with the issue of illegal mining in a country like Nigeria? Are there vested interests?
I would really like to approach these based on experience. One, you won't understand what it means by illegal miners until you happen to be in the field. These are virtually like nocturnal human beings. They are one of the most hardest set of human beings I've ever seen in my entire life. There are vested interests. We cannot deny that. And these interests are actually protecting these people in the field. And you cannot just say it cut across one part of the country or it just a particular set of people. No. This cut across the entire societal profile, from the high and mighty to the lowest people doing the operations in the field. So if you look at it, supposing you happen to be at the field and you happen to be the owner of the land, and you said, look, gentlemen, I'm going to put this very serious security over my land. I don't want people in my side. Go to Osun State. I will give a typical example. At the time, it was virtually an impossible task to move people out of the Perindo Gold site. Go to Zamfara. It was virtually impossible to say, well, push this plan, because these are human beings that you send them out, maybe bring in police and make a raid in the morning, and you'll be surprised that by the time they come back tomorrow morning, you see that the whole land being devastated. When did these guys operate? They come in even in the thick hours of the night. So it's a very complex thing. And if people ask me sometimes, why is that it's virtually impossible? The truth is that we don't have manpower. That is one fundamental truth. Two, are you going to deploy our entire security men to man our bushes? Don't forget, Nigeria is over 900,000 square kilometers, precisely 923 million square kilometers. So imagine the total people that are out there. Where are you going to man and where are you going? So we need to do a little bit and continuously be improving and then re-strategizing. I think this is what actually the government is doing. If you look at of recent, the government took up very serious position, like what happened in Ibadan recently. It was really, really a very unfortunate scenario. Are they illegal? No. They are documented miners. But were they operating in full line of the authority? No. And it's not just with the mines, maybe with the Ministry of Mines and State Development alone. This cut across the entire chain of security line. You have the DSS, you have the police, you have police disposal squad, bomb disposal squad. So you have so many things to cut across. But you see, Nigeria is more than what we sometimes understand. So to me, illegal mining, I thank God the government is taking some very proactive steps, and I'm happy about that. But if we think away with something that you can eliminate overnight, no country has succeeded in doing that at once. So but we have to continue keeping on evolving new strategies. I think this is what I can say for now.
What about getting the host communities involved? With this, to an extent, attend to the disorganization in the mining fields?
Very good question. Because these illegal miners are not operating in space. They are operating within the space of communities. You understand? But now, let me ask one simple question. Supposing the community itself is an illegal mine, or they are into mining activities, so that means they are going to have all their own people. I can give you a typical example of a community in Zamfara State. The rate at the time was virtually an agrarian community that had nothing to do with mining. But when gold mining becomes top of their activities, virtually the entire community abandoned farming in its totality. And they are fully into gold mining. Now, I can remember a couple of times that there was a raid, or they had a series of raids by the Mines Inspectorate Department in conjunction with the Nigerian police in Zamfara State. The truth is this: when you invade such kind of places, you discover that the community head himself might be part of this system. Don't forget, it's not that there are no licenses. There are licenses. There are virtually most of the viable mining sites in Nigeria are actually licensed. This license is being issued with a consent from the community. This consent that's given is a prerequisite for the issuance of the mining license, be it exploration license, mining lease, small-scale mining license, whatsoever. The prerequisite requirement is for you to get the consent from the community. Now, after getting the consent, you discover that yes, the owner of the license, may not even have the full operation or control over the place because of the artisanal mining. You bring in policemen for raid or whatever that might be. Yes, you chase them at the time, but you will continuously have to be doing that kind of raid for them to know that yes, it's possible for you to check them out. So the community is not actually isolated either. Sometimes we don't want to push things too hard because the whole system will just collapse. So, but I think the government is really doing the very best to get these things sanitized. It's really a big task. So anybody that thinks that it's a simple task, honestly, it's a mistake. Don't forget, the government have thought of introducing the mines policy, not just now, but previously it has been done. Well, there was a little impact. We have to continue just evolving new strategies. That's the only thing I can say.
All right, now let's talk business. Nigeria is endowed with over 40 solid minerals, and I would like you to paint a picture of the opportunities available in this sector, and then the areas that should be of interest to any investors or any investor hoping to invest in this sector. What should be the area of interest in this sector as far as Nigeria is concerned? Talk about the opportunities and paint to us a picture of how that sector looks like when it comes to potential.
Thank you very much for this very important question. I want to tell you one thing with all sense of responsibility, that if Nigeria can just look inward and look at our mineral potential, I think, honestly, we won't waste our time on any other commodity at all. And I can give you a typical scenario with their value as of today. Let's assume that you look at all the states of the Federation. There's no state in Nigeria that have not worked. And I can confidently tell you, all these states have one thing or the other that could be mined at a very large commercial scale. Now, if, for example, a state wants to take a particular commodity and look at it critically and enhance its own commodity, its own financial, the economy of the state, I can give you one simple formula. These states are having the opportunity to float their own companies. For example, let's look, for example, states like Taraba. Taraba is endowed with one of the unique commodities that has not been mined at all. Bauxite, you imagine the quantity of aluminum being imported into Nigeria today. The raw material for it is bauxitic clays. We have this bauxite in Nigeria, and that's why I use Taraba as an example. The Mambila Plateau is one of the biggest deposits of, we have the biggest deposit of bauxitic clay in Nigeria today. Bauxite is going between $57 to $60 per ton. Now, this is just a clay that is having high alumina content. If you now, for example, assume that you have a chance to produce 50 million metric tons, 50 million metric tons is not too big to produce in a single mine. You can produce that within an area of maybe less than 5 square kilometers. 5 square kilometers is just a fraction of a land mass in Mambila Plateau. If you produce that quantity, imagine you have multiplied even at a conservative rate of $50 per ton. That is money that you can never believe it. Because for every 1 million metric tons of bauxite, and there are many companies that are ready to take up to 3 million metric tons per annum if you produce that kind of thing. So you imagine if you are producing 3 million metric tons and you are producing conservative, let's assume at even $20, that means the profit level that you're going to make, including now, okay, you exclude your mining, your processing, your shipment, that's going to cost. So out of, for example, $50, you say, okay, $30 meant for that kind of thing. So you have $20 as a profit margin for 3 million metric tons per annum. That is a huge amount of money. You are talking of over $60 million, $60 million per annum that you can make. Imagine that kind of money being generated by a state. That's just one. Look, for example, the metal sector. One of the biggest commodity Nigeria is blessed with is tin. We have a lot of tin, we have a lot of columbine. These commodities are going for around $29,000 per ton. In Nigeria, people are mining within less than $20 million. I mean, they're producing the concentrate export grade at less than $20. I mean, $20,000 per ton, and it's going for around $29,000 per ton. So you can produce comfortably if you're mining, processing, and everything. Then you're sure for every 1 ton you can make between $8 and $10. $10,000, $8,000, $10,000 per ton. So imagine if you're exporting, for example, in most of the companies are producing minimum, maybe for example, a company that's producing 30 tons in every week or 30 tons even in a month. That means a container plus. You're going to make huge amount of money. So all the states in Nigeria have one advantage or that in terms of export. Now, we have not looked at the local consumable commodities. Yes, I know that most of the mineral commodities produced in Nigeria are actually oriented towards export market. Now, if you're going to produce some of this, as simple as titanium is, for example, one of the major pigment material in our paint industry is titanium production. So we have a lot of opportunities to scale through all these things, but maybe we have not discovered it. So the question is our economy or our mineral resources buoyant enough or high enough to give us a change in the economy? I can confidently tell you authoritatively, yes, we have enough that could change our economy within shortest time.
All right, you just talked about how much of minerals can be mined and how much of money or financial gains it can give Nigeria. But we're still at the level of doing primary mining as we see with crude oil and petroleum. When do you think it can get to the level of tapping directly the secondary products, which are even more expensive? What is needed to have that happen?
Yeah, that's a very good technical question. I want to tell you one thing. There's no single mine that you see in the world that produces only a single commodity. In most cases, we are having associated commodities. Now, if you mine, for example, you're mining tin in Jos, our tin doesn't occur with only tin, as only tin. It occurs associated with columbite, commonly, zircon sand, rare earth elements, and all those stuff. If you look at some countries, for example, United States, you can't export 1 kilo of rare earth elements from United States. You can't export 1 kilo from China. Here is considered as a waste. Waste in the sense that previous mining activities just dump that as a tailing. It's now that we have realized that there's huge market for it. Nigerians are going over it and then reprocessing the tailings and then now using for export. At the time, people were using it to fill in roads, to fill in empty spaces or void spaces, or if you want to make construction work in just a lot of houses actually bury those materials and they are radioactive. So just, the truth is this, there's still very low knowledge of understanding, information or knowledge about the mineral mining sector in Nigeria. But with the way things are changing within the past 5-10 years, I think we are really getting it right because people have started getting to understand the commercial value of those commodities. And it's easy for you to market, to promote that knowledge once Nigerians realize that there is financial benefit coming out from such kind of commodities that lie beneath their own soil.
All right, now let's address this issue of mining remaining on the exclusive list. The federal government severally has said that it's going to remain on the exclusive list, while some argue there's a need to put it on the concurrent list. What stops states from controlling their own resources? Help us understand the merit and the demerit associated with, putting mining on the concurrent list, if that will be the way forward for Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Number one, we can't operate in isolation as a nation. There is always a very big noise being made by people that don't understand the implications of it. One, let me start with a very controversial point. If you want to give the states right over mineral resources, are we as a nation, not even the federal government alone, are we as a nation also ready to give right to the oil producing states control over the oil resources in the country? Every Nigerian have an answer to that question. Because there will be great injustice if you say, okay, fine, let's give the states that are producing solid minerals the right to produce the minerals from their states. I can give you a typical example. In Delta State, for example, or Rivers or Bayelsa, one of their commonest minerals that they have is actually sand and sand-related minerals. Will you now say, okay, fine, because they are having sand and some people have gold? They've been producing oil for Nigeria for so many years. So you want to give these states that are having solid minerals the right to mine these minerals while denying these states the right for them to have control over their oil? It's left for you to answer. Two, if any state wants to go into mining, the solution is extremely simple. Very, very simple. All this confusion that we're having that federal government is because mining is on exclusive list and we don't, it's just a political jargon that we're just using there. Why am I saying so? Every state, for example, that want to go into mining have the right to flog state investment companies. Nobody stop them that. Two, you have the right to go and obtain a license like any other person. Three, you have the right to mine and process the commodity. In fact, if you can set up industries that will even consume the raw material, you have that right. Four, you have the right to bring in partners from any part of the world. The question is, do the states have the resources to even invest in generating the geotechnical data about these mineral resources? No. So what's the essence of giving somebody the right over something that you cannot put it into utilization? The federal government on its own cannot even fund mining. Understand that clearly. The federal government is only regulating, and that's why they are looking for investment partners. Like the oil sector. When Nigeria opened the oil sector, they invited all the big oil multinationals into the country. They are into joint venture partnership. Every state have the ability to acquire their license, go into joint venture partnership with any company that have the financing in order for them to generate the data that will be used to produce or to develop the mine. You don't just develop a mine like the way artisanal miners are operating. No. Given the opportunity, I wish I have the power, or we have power as a people to say, okay, no more illegal mining in Nigeria. I can guarantee you, you will discover that even to generate some of this data, we cannot generate it. So it's a simple thing. If just Nigerians want to politicize things that are not politicizable. If you want to go into mining, it's simple. Go ahead, get your license, develop. If you like, you can get license over the entire state if you have the power. Develop the mineral resources and see whether there's anybody who's going to stop you. Nobody's going to stop you. But if we say want now put it on in a way that yes, the state should have right over the mineral resources, then we have to as well also give people that are producing oil their right over the oil resources in their countries. This is very explicit and very simple answer to me.
That happen, how do you think it can be a win-win for the companies and of course the communities? What kind of arrangement will ensure that?
Thank you for this question again. If you look at it, the Mineral Mining Act is very explicit in such a way that to implement it is going to be more stricter than before. That community development agreement is meant to take care of the interests of the host community of any mining activities or any mining company. So if supposing now a company wants to operate in a particular community, they are mandated to sign a consent. The consent can cover, your license may cover, for example, 3 or 4 or 5 communities. At this stage of seeking for license, you need to get a consent from one of this community that falls within a license area. After getting the consent, you apply for, you submit the consent to the mining cadastre office. On the basis of the consent and other required documents, which if you have fulfilled all those requirements, the mining cadastre will give you a license. That is the first stage. But you see, you have to go back to the community where your license covers and do a comprehensive exploration work. At that point, if you have done exploration work, you have identified out of 5 communities, for example, that falls within your license, only 1 community actually hosts the deposit, which is of commercial quantity. At that point, it's expected you go back, ask that very community to sign a community development agreement. When you're signing that community development agreement, the essence of it is now you want to get a mining lease that now gives you permit to mine those minerals. So at that point, you see that the community development agreement encompasses issues like 1, issue of what we are going to provide to the community on a regular basis, annually, biannually, or maybe in every 2 or 3 years. So it's content. Basically, we're interested in issues like healthcare facilities. We're interested like education. We're interested like power. All those things need to be captured in the CDA. If you've not agreed on those things, you submit that to the federal government. When you are signing this community development agreement, the federal mines officer must be there. The mines environmental compliance must be there. All those things are meant to take care of people. Now, but ask me, why is it that we're not getting it right? There are a lot of self-interest. A community leader may not even like to carry his people along. The mining company would like to have it in their best way, within the shortest time, with less responsibility. So when I know of a case whereby a community leader specifically requested a company that was actually trying to mine sand, quarry sand, for their civil construction work. And they said, okay, to reciprocate that gesture, we promise to do ABC to your community. And the community head, unfortunately, said, no, before you do that, it's not going to come and construct my palace. The question is, it's a big company with a big reputation. They said, if we're going to construct your palace, what do we do to the community? He said, forget about this, my own people. So you see why we have the problem. Sometimes we discuss this in peripherally without actually going to in-depth situation and crisis that we people encounter. So we must be able to look at it, please, beyond just discussion on social media and all those stuff. People must be able to understand in-depthly what is actually the situation there. Now, the government is encouraging companies not to heed to such kind of requests. Look at community issues. That's why we call it community development agreement. Not a personal issue with the community head or with some certain valleys or the inflation. No, that's not the issue. It must be community first. And now with the way the government is going about it, they have restructured it in such a way that this must be accepted, signed, and then be sealed in the court of law before even submitted. So that's going to help a lot. But actually, we've been handling a lot of challenges based on this issue of community leaders, sometimes top influential members of the community who hijacks all those kind of things. So I think we are moving on. We'll continue doing our very best, and I think we're getting better.
All right, still talking about the issue of community development agreement. I think the issue here is not the absence of the agreement, but the implementation of the agreement, which is like these agreements are being respected, they are reviewed, and they are being implemented. And as a result, also play what you call a supervisory role to ensure that these miners are actually giving back to the community where they are being hosted.
Yeah, to bring out a template for the community development agreement under the direct provision of the ministry. So I think at the end of the day, when the final document is out, we'll have a better CDA than before. Because truly, you see, it's important for us to know that these things must be done to the benefit of the community. And it's not the law actually that matters, it's the implementation. When somebody can sit down and then hijack a major chunk of any governmental activities, you know what, it's going to be detrimental to that very community. I think we just have to get it right for the implementation.
All right, the advocacy for local content in the oil and gas industry, do you think that advocacy should spread to the mining sector, local content?
Naturally. I can give you an instance from my office, the Solomon Development Fund. We believe in local content. We believe in improvising as much as we can the use of technology in the process of mineral. Now, but you see, we can't continue shipping everything from China. So specifically, we sat down in a meeting with my ES, and we told the management that, look, the best thing we need to do is let us look at how we can inculcate the local fabrication of most of our equipment that we can produce locally in Nigeria. And I can tell you, for example, the hammer mills. Why should Nigerians be importing hammer mills from China? Hammer mills are actually meant to crush and then process this material into finer grain. It's a gravity separation process. So we took up on that, and we went to the extent of producing models for tin processing equipment. We tested it, including one of the most, I would say, relatively complex mechanism for extraction of tin. We call it the jigs. And we went to the extent of producing primary jigs, secondary jigs from SMDF for local content, based on local content, and then for the tin extraction, which was a very big success. So the point is, the mining sector is just starting, and honestly, we need to implement this. We need to be serious about it. We need to stand by it. We need to get it straightforward that nothing should be done without local content. We must make it like a policy, which I think that will really help us a lot. It's really given us a lot of opportunity, because don't forget, like for example, in Jos, Jos has been a mining community for long. And there are a lot of fabrication going on right now in Jos based on the experience of those old colonial miners. So they were able to maintain that trend. They were able to produce so many things. And it's helping us a lot. So we are really out to advocate that it's better for us to be using that kind of local content material than for us to depending on the imported processing equipment. And since there's a local content policy in Nigeria already, it's easy for us to stand by that and implement it. For us in SMDF, it's a critical part.
All right, thank you so much, Kefas Mogri, for talking to us this morning. Before we wrap up, I need to check with Femi. Are you done with Kefas?
Okay, great. Let's just wrap up with this. I would like to point your attention to a report credited, or a statement credited to the Minister of Solid Minerals, that's Dele Alake, lamenting that miners and some of the operators are owing the federal government to the tune of 2 trillion naira as a result of not paying royalties and some other fees. How do you react to these, and what should be the way forward henceforth so that the federal government could take advantage of the payment of royalties in developing that sector?
There are a lot of defaulters. That's the truth. There are a lot of defaulters. And what the minister did after making that pronouncement is now clearly revoke those licenses. He revoked over 1,600 licenses recently. It was 1,400 something licenses initially, but others were also added on. And if you go to the mining cadastre office within these past 2-3 weeks, you will see that office is always jam-packed. The reason it being, people are coming back, they don't want to lose their license, so they're coming back to pay. So it's a good strategy, and I think we need to continuously keep on going on the revenue drive. Two, mining is a bit complex.
Oh my, we're hoping he will wrap up his stuff, but we just have to appreciate him for his time. He has talked extensively about the issue of mining in Nigeria, raised some of the critical issues that has to do with legal mining. I find this very fascinating, the minister, owing to the fact that the nation is losing about 2 trillion naira to the non-payment of royalties, and I'm wondering, how do we get to this level? Imagine if that kind of money is being realized.
What it can do for the Nigerian economy.
Exactly.
Yes, it may not be possible to bring mining into the concurrent list. It might remain in the exclusive list, but I think some form of collaboration is necessary at this point between the federal government and the state government. While the federal government may do the approval, but I think the direct overseeing of what happens within the state and the communities should be done by the state government, because they are closer to the companies and they're closer to the mining fields, and so they can directly observe what goes on, because it takes a lot of monitoring to actually nip this in the bud and curtail the excesses of whether the companies themselves are approved or illegal miners having access to the mines. So I think that's one of the things that the government should be looking at in addressing these leakages. That's a lot of money to leave an economy.
It's a huge one. There are those who argue that, for it to be on the concurrent, I think Nigeria is not mature for that.
No,
Looking at the reference, what's happening in Zamfara now. But let's hope we'll get to that level, whereby there will be a win-win situation for all the parties.
I don't totally agree that Nigeria is not mature for that. I just think that it takes a lot of willpower to do that, and then we do not want a situation where maybe a certain political party in a particular state takes it as their inheritance, and so it will take a lot for that to happen. Some states might be able to actually do it, but I can't speak for every state. But in the meantime, there should be a collaboration. After all, even though there are different tiers of government, it's still one country.
And I feel if transparency and equity have been brought into the system, then the agitations will stop. Then
transparency is the key word.
Yeah,
if you have that, I think you have every other thing.
Exactly.
And the full gains from the mining sector in Nigeria can be achieved. We hope to see that the sector moves from being a primary sector to one where the minerals are mined, and actually the extractions and the different byproducts that can be gotten can be refined here in Nigeria, because it's a lot more expensive when you want to buy the byproducts from some of these minerals than you trying to do that, getting the primary products. Just take the example of crude oil and petroleum, you know how that happens. But that's been the show today. We thank you so much for your time. We've enjoyed your company. Yes, we know you're there, and that has given us the zeal to do this. We can do it again tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time is when you can join the show. Do not at all leave Souq News, because there are so many programs for you to enjoy. Market Insights is one of them. There is Sports at noon, and there, of course, will be Souq. There will be 4 p.m. belt, which you can enjoy Souq Pause with Chuks John Rogers. I am Blessing AG. Do enjoy your day.
And from me to you, as Africans, as Nigerians, let's be patriotic so that the labor of our heroes will not be in vain. Let's see what we can do to make our nation better, to make our continent better. Like Early Exchange, we always get bigger. We always get bigger, pardon me for that. Early Exchange will always get bigger and better. And we'll return tomorrow to make it more interesting. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.